Hey, what's up guys? I figure I do a new video series outside of powerlifting on this channel, and I just want to give my perspective and advice on various issues such as finance and whatnot. But today I want to talk about assets and liabilities. So whenever you do a purchase or look at an item for consideration for purchase, you want to categorize it either as an asset or a liability. So just in terms of this video, I'm going to define an asset as something that appreciates in value and a liability as something that loses value or costs you money. So whenever you have your income, you should have a budget. So you'll have your expenditures and then you have the money left over. And with this money left over, you want to be buying assets, so things that increase in value. So that can include stocks, index funds, etc. So basically anything that will appreciate in value over time or has shown to increase in value over time. So that's extremely important. And what spurred this thought of mine was that I do see individuals that may not be earning a lot of income purchasing liabilities such as phones or really expensive shoes or whatnot. So we want to really consider every dollar that you spend, and that any discretionary income that you have is allocated toward an asset. So I myself am successful financially, and I have always categorized each dollar and tried to allocate each dollar to work for me and appreciate in value. So of course there's risk in investing in stocks and index funds and so forth, but overall the trend is, if you have somewhat of a diversified portfolio, that the trend is going to go up. So there's going to be dips and apexes for your investment performance, but generally it's a good idea to have assets where they have an ability to increase. So they may decrease in the short term, but overall they'll increase over time. So it's really important. And when you're setting a budget, you want to make sure that you set aside, of course, money for your mortgage/rent, food, utilities, taxes, insurance premiums, and so forth. But also you want to set aside a small portion for entertainment, because you don't want to suddenly binge on things if you feel that you're missing out on activities such as eating out or whatever social events. So it's really important that outside of your necessities for your budget, that you set an entertainment budget, and outside of that you want to make sure that you're allocating every dollar that you have. And being an adult or trying to save for the future, you really have to delay gratification. So for example, it may not be the wisest choice to buy a really nice car and then have it depreciate to zero over time, or it may not be the best decision to go YOLO on vacations or whatnot if you can be allocating this money toward an asset that will increase in value over time. So it's really important that that anyone, especially a young person, that they categorize what they purchase as an asset or a liability. And it's really dependent upon how serious you are for saving for retirement. So every time you receive income, and again it's ideal if you have multiple income streams, but let's say you just have one income stream, you want to make sure that you manage all your funds very carefully. And it's really a behavioral exercise, so you want to really take control of your desires and your behavior in order to save for the future. So every cent that you have, you want it to be working for you, and you don't want this money to be going out the window. So the topic of real estate is quite tricky, because the home that you live in, you may not really consider an asset, because let's say your home doesn't appreciate greatly in value over time. You're going to be having a lot of expenditures on it. So you can have maintenance, property tax, which is tax deductible by the way, but again that's besides the point. You'll have, let's say you have a single family home, you may have to replace the roof, you may have to replace the water heater over time. So various things that will cost you, or expenditures related to owning a home. So you want to take that into deep consideration. So basically, if the real estate that you own is not offsetting the mortgage/rent expense through charging or having a tenant, then you may not want to consider that as an asset per se, unless it greatly appreciates in value over time. So that was the case in the 90s, where you had so much appreciation up to around 2008. We took a dip, of course, with the subprime loan crisis, and then it mostly somewhat recovered through now 2019. So you have to be aware of that. So I myself, don't consider the home that you live in as an asset. Again, because of all of the expenditures. But if you do have a real estate property that does produce you income, then yes, you can consider that as an asset, because it's continually either covering the mortgage expense, and you'll be netting a positive amount each month. And again, you can consider that as something that is producing you income. So that is an asset. So historically, if you select, for example, an S&P 500 or some type of index fund that covers the U.S. stock market, you'll expect around 8% annual rate of return. So I gave this example. So let's say you spend $1,000 on a phone, that the value of that phone will eventually reach zero, or will get damaged or whatever. So it won't have any utility to you anymore. So if you place this $1,000 over 40 years at around 8% average return, it'll return over 20 times the value. So you have to consider the time value of money when you're purchasing really expensive items like that. So it may give you a lot of happiness and a lot of joy currently at the moment, but of course the phone will eventually get outdated, and then you'll be tempted to buy a new one. So you really have to consider all your purchases, especially big ticket items such as a phone. So me personally, I have not bought a new phone in 6 years, and I personally still wear Timberland boots that are 14 years old. So I really try to control my expenses to a large extent. That's why I'm successful financially, and as long as I continue to exhibit these behaviors, then I won't have any problems in the future. So having a sense of austerity / frugality when you're approaching life is good, but again, don't devoid yourself from all pleasure. So I myself, I do like to eat out from time to time, as you guys see on my Instagram, but again, it's well within my means, and it is considered technically a liability, right? So I'm spending money on food that won't return any value for me outside of my own happiness at that particular point in time. So it's really important, again, like I told you before and earlier in the video, that you set a portion of your budget aside for entertainment, because if you devoid yourself from any type of pleasure or pleasure spending in your monthly budget, then you may have a tendency to binge down the road. So again, it's important that you get a taste of pleasure while you're controlling your expenses with a frugality / austerity mindset. So you don't have to adopt this type of philosophy, but if you do have quote-unquote an abundance mindset, and you want to be living your life now, then your income will have to be much greater, or you'll have to concentrate on producing a lot more income. And then that may not be a possibility for all folks. Not everyone is an entrepreneur, or not everyone has the avenues to produce multiple streams of income. So it's really important that if you don't, that you take some austerity measures, and you set a budget, and you make every dollar work for you. So I personally only have 1 cent, or at times only have 1 cent in my checking and savings account. So I'm kind of extreme. So anytime I do have income coming in, I do allocate those funds immediately to invest in assets that will appreciate. So it's really important. Again, I am taking it to extreme, but it's really important to have every dollar working for you. So you don't want to be at 60 years old and not have any asset producing income, such as dividends or whatnot, because those are taxed at a lower rate, 15%, if you don't have any earned income during the year. So it's really important that when you're that age, you have everything prepared, because if you are going to work in perpetuity, then for me, I don't think that's a great life, because you won't have the time freedom to really enjoy your life. So I myself plan to retire early, so I can do other projects, so I can perhaps do some film projects or travel or whatnot. But again, I have done my traveling in the past, so I don't really have a need to travel extravagantly or anything. So right now I'm really trying to accumulate assets and try to retire as early as possible. So it's really important that you have, again, every dollar working for you, and that you delay gratification to an extent unless you're earning an income that's extremely large, where you can save and spend at the same time. But again, for me, I don't suggest that, and for most people, their income isn't so huge to that extent. So you'll have to do a mix of both. So you'll have to take some budgetary austerity measures and also save as much as you can in income, in assets that either appreciate or produce regular income for you. So that's the topic for today, and hopefully if you guys like it, I'll continue making videos on various subjects in life. So that can include anything from personal relationships, finance, or anything else. So let me know what you guys think, and if you want this video series to continue, and then I'll go from there. Thanks.